Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as Roy Orbison once said, it's over. Celtic out of all European competition for the 22-23 campaign. Well, Roy Orbison never actually said that part, just the it's over. But you know what I'm trying to say. We're out, that's it. All hope is gone. We were basically out anyway. We were asking for a massive miracle amongst the further games to come against Real Madrid, of course, and then tonight it was a big ask, but tonight it seals the fate. We're out of all European competition. We will be finishing bottom of the group. Wasn't quite good enough from Celtic tonight. Celtic won, Shakhtar won. We're going to cover it all in this, a reaction to the game, a review of what was a really weird game, I thought. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. A late one tonight. This will probably be out after midnight with the rate it took me to get home. But a really frustrating one from Celtic. Another missed opportunity, it feels like, in the Champions League. And to be honest, out of all the games I've watched at Celtic Park, it felt the flattest of all performances. And I don't know if you agree, dare I say, was it maybe the worst, despite the only one we grabbed points? I don't know. There was just something about that game tonight where we didn't seem quite up for it, and we were playing a side who I think that if we played our best, we could have beat, just like we should have and could have beat in Poland as well a couple of months ago. It was really weird. It felt flat from the get-go for me, and I think in the first half we were better, definitely, and we'll go through it in the normal structure that we usually do. But I don't know, there was just something about tonight. It just didn't seem like the same Celtic. It didn't seem like the same Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. It was kind of like a throwback to a Rodgers Celtic. We were very passive. I think we lacked a lot of urgency throughout the game, even when we were leading in the game. I just thought, it was a Celtic side that looked kind of, I'm not going to use the word defeated because we didn't lose, and I don't think we were defeated, but we just looked very lethargic, I thought, tonight. A lot slower, a lot of players looked a little bit like empty jerseys. We'll talk about that. And I don't know, it just didn't feel like the same Celtic side who we watched against Real Madrid and Leipzig at Celtic Park, because in those games, despite losing, I think we went out with a lot of intensity, and I think we had a real presence in the game and a real effort to attack them. Today it seemed like we were a lot more laid back. We were the ones willing to hold the ball, wait for them to come to us, and it just didn't seem like it had the same effect in terms of, it didn't get me on the edge of my seat an awful lot. It didn't have the same excitement. Maybe that worked. Maybe that was actually, tactical genius in a sense, because we didn't lose the game ultimately. By changing our approach ever so slightly, and we'll get into the actual tactic itself, because obviously we've seen a change of what looked a change of formation and a change of system with two forwards playing. But maybe it worked. Maybe it is more of a positive than anything. The fact that we stood off them a little bit more. We weren't as intense. We weren't pressing them as high. The fact that we were walking away from the game with a point. But when we had that on the line tonight, where we had to win to give us even a glimmer of hope, I don't know. I'm not going to be overly negative, but I feel like it was just a little lacklustre. Now, what I will say is, I think that from my very brief scroll on social media so far since the game is finished, I do think there's been a slight overreaction, especially to some individuals. Now, you could definitely criticise people on the night, and you could definitely criticise the team on the night for certain things, but a lot of people throwing a wobbly with certain individuals and the performance in itself, and getting very, very kind of concerned about it. Now listen, the thing is about Celtic now is we pick ourselves up and we get focused on that game on Sunday, and we keep going ahead with our domestic football this season. I don't think this is an alarm bell. I don't think this is a kind of disaster for Celtic by any means, but judging by some reactions, you think it would be. But it was. I think it was lacklustre. I think when you have to win that game, I expected a little bit more, and especially with the team that we started the game with, I really thought we would have been more of a threat. I thought we would have created chance after chance, but it didn't quite work out that way. So let's go back to the start. Let's go through the first half, where I thought it was definitely the better of the 45 halves for Celtic. 45 halves, yes, that's right, Ryan. The two halves for Celtic. The two 45s is what I meant to say. It was definitely the better, I think, in the opening 45. There was still glimpses of the normal Celtic we've seen. There was moments in the game where we did press them into the corner of the park. We did kind of push them higher up when they had possession of the ball. But there was still periods in that first half, and around the 10th minute mark, Shakhtar had a really comfortable spell of possession. And Celtic didn't really press them at all. We didn't really have that urgency around us. And there was a couple of 2 or 3 spells where they had lengthy possessions of the ball. And Celtic didn't really challenge it. And granted, they didn't really amount to much. Maybe we were right to be patient, but it just looked really different because we're so used to Celtic being this high intensity. Let's press the opposition, let's get the ball back and let's go. And that never really was the thing for us, I thought, in that opening 45, or throughout the whole game. We were definitely better in the opening 45, but one thing that was evident was that massive kind of change in the sense that we played 2 strikers. We played Kyogo and Giacomakis, and no, Kyogo wasn't playing on the wing. We had Abada and we had Haksabanovic. So it made for an interesting setup that I'm going to be very open and honest about as we get on here. But Kyogo had a really interesting role in which it looked as though when we were off possession and when Shakhtar had like a goal kick, it looked as though we were kind of set up in a 4-4-2 almost with those 2 leading the line. But every time we did get onto possession, Giacomakis would go and lead the line, and Kyogo was doing this job where he would drop back a little bit and he was in this pocket of space almost in behind the striker. And I actually think he'd done a pretty decent job at it. I must be honest. I don't think any of the 2 forwards necessarily had a bad game tonight between Kyogo and Giacomakis. However, I will be honest in saying this. I wasn't a big fan of the system. And I don't think it was effective as what it would have been if we just played one of the 2. Now, you might not agree with me. And I feel like that might be one that's maybe controversial and maybe you'll have your own take on. But for me, it didn't carry the same impact or effect that it does when you've got one of those guys playing with the 2 wingers either side. I think we missed out quite a bit by not having another central midfielder in there. It left a lot of gaps in the middle. It left O'Reilly with a big job. O'Reilly was getting a lot of criticism tonight for his performance, and rightfully so. He was stinking tonight, to be quite honest. But it left him with a big job to do, because if Hatate overcommitted, you know, O'Reilly's then suddenly got that huge kind of space in behind that he had to try and cover himself when he's not naturally a defensive-minded midfielder. And obviously he's covered that role now since McGregor's went out for a number of games, but he's still not a natural at it. He'll probably never be a natural at it. As soon as McGregor's back, it will go back to normal. But one thing that was extremely evident is you miss McGregor in games like this. You really do. McGregor's presence is so important, and we ran on and on about McGregor, but it almost feels sort of underrated, his presence, because without him we noticed a difference. There was a period in the game where we were moving forward with quite a bit of pace, and I looked in at the team and the setup and the formation as we moved forward, and it was the back 4, then O'Reilly sitting, and then there was like 3 ahead of O'Reilly, and then the striker, which was almost like an adaptation of a 4-2-3-1, but without the second holding midfielder. And I just feel like that was a big ask for Matt O'Reilly to look and cover that role himself. If you go back and watch the full game highlights, you'll notice it in a couple of phases of attacks in the first half where O'Reilly is just stuck in this kind of pivot role himself, while Hatate is committed with the forwards. And it meant for when Shakhtar broke, and when they broke, they went forward, they break with a lot of pace. And it was a really difficult job for O'Reilly, I think. And then Hatate was knackered come the second half. So I wasn't a big fan of that system. If it was me, now once again, I'm not the manager. I know no better than Ange Postecoglou. I wouldn't even pretend for a second that I do. But I think that I would have rather seen us stuck to just playing the one of the 2, either Giacomakis or Kyogo, in all honesty. And I would have had Moy on, and I would have had, and I don't think Moy was great when he came on the park, but I would have had Moy on, I would have had Abildgaard on, I would have had someone, even Haksabanovic, maybe playing in that same kind of number 10 role that he did a few weeks ago with Maida on the park. I think I would have just stuck to the traditional shape and system that we've got used to under Ange, but we did change it. And it was effective in portions of the first half, especially, of course, when we found our goal, which was great. But I don't know, I think as the game got on, we've seen tired legs. I think that especially O'Reilly and Hatate looked a little more dead in the midfield, and I think that was with the extra demand of space to cover. And I think it came back to bite us a little bit as the game went on. But we did play decent enough in the first half. Of course, Giacomakis got his Champions League goal, his first of hopefully many in a Celtic shirt. And going into half-time, you know, we were in a comfortable position, but once again, just to reiterate, I just thought we looked too lethargic, and I didn't go into the second half with a lot of optimism. I thought that all it would take was someone like Mudryk getting an opportunity, and it could have changed everything, and that's exactly what happened. Second half, you know, we just we lacked a lot, and it just didn't feel like the Celtic we've got to know and love under Ange Postecoglou. I don't know quite what it was, but especially when they found their equaliser, it didn't really feel like Celtic were in the chase for a second goal, I thought. And we created a couple of chances here and there, but it just felt flat. And there's a lot of occasions where, and rightfully so, the crowd were getting really agitated at our kind of lack of creativity and that kind of lack of movement, because there was times where Hatate or Riley or anybody else was forced to pass the ball backwards when we're not really used to that. In the middle of the park, and, it's gone back to the centre half, and you're thinking, we're 1-1 at this point in the game. We should be a bit more intense and trying to move forward and find a goal. We really need to win this game, but we didn't quite find that. The goal that we concede, it's a stunning strike from Madrid. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his second name, by the way. I'm taking a wild guess. Madrid. It's a stunning strike, but Juranovic has to do much, much better there. Do something. Hit him. Slide in if you need to. I mean, sliding in is overcommitting at times, and all he has to do is a quick turn of the ball, and he's escaped a sliding Juranovic. But try and do something. It's like he goes in, and he feints it, and then he comes back, and he shites out of it. And it just allows him to find that pocket of space behind him, and he ends up putting it in the back of the net. It's a stunning strike. Brilliant goal. No wonder the top teams in Europe are looking at him. He's a cracking player. But Juranovic has to do much, much better. I think he sold himself and gave the opportunity off too easily for him. On another occasion, maybe Juranovic does better. But I think it's one that a lot of people will probably get quite agitated about, and then he'll start asking the question, would Ralston have done better there? That's going to be one of the questions that come up from that goal, I think. And it was annoying because I think defensively we'd done a good enough job tonight. Jens, Carter Vickers, I thought Taylor was brilliant again, who's just been player of the season. Don't need to keep saying it. I thought they three were brilliant, and then Juranovic just let us down in that kind of one moment, which was really annoying because Shakhtar's attacks all came from counter attacks. But we conceded the goal, and then from there, there was nothing there to suggest that Celtic were going to find a second. Even when we made the substitutes, I thought Forrest was actually one of the better players who played for Celtic tonight. He came on, he looked positive enough, but Maida didn't even get a touch of the ball. Moy was far too slow in the game for me. And it just feels like the game slowed down as the minutes passed, and all hope of finding a winning goal just evaporated in front of our eyes. That's the feeling I got from it. We didn't lose the game, which was good, but we certainly could have, because that Shakhtar miss could be, in front of my very eyes anyway, I've seen worse misses on the telly, but in front of my own eyes, it might be the worst miss I've ever seen in a football ground. That should have killed us. That should have been the winning goal. That should have been right there. We got let off big time. And I thought the instant reaction from it, we looked a lot more positive. We moved up the park with a bit of pace. But then 2 minutes later, we were back to being really kind of slow. I was quite confused. I was. But that's that, I'm afraid. One thing that we need to work on in these European nights is taking advantage of set-piece situations and doing something with them. Every set-piece tonight, be it a corner or a free kick with a crossing opportunity, every single one, I think, apart from bar one or two, was right in the first man. You've got to take these chances. Teams make opportunities all over Europe from set pieces, and I feel like we're a ball head away from needing Austin McPhee through the door, man. We really need to improve from these set pieces. Haksabanović's deliveries weren't great in the first half, and whoever was taking the set pieces in the second half, their deliveries weren't great either. And it's just a waste, because it's not even as if you need to connect with a header from these corners every single time, but at least make something, force a mistake, try and do something with it, keep possession. It's right to the first man and Shakhtar have the ball again, and we do nothing. And it was really, really irritating throughout tonight's game, I thought. We had a couple of big chances again, not to be unfair on Celtic, because there was certainly positives throughout what I thought was just a really weird feeling game. We did create chances, we did have opportunities. Matt O'Reilly had a chance that was very, very close towards the end of the game. Giacomakis forced a good save from the keeper. I think O'Reilly worked the keeper on an occasion as well, but I don't think we had as many clear-cut chances as what we've created in other games, and that was annoying. But we're out now. Ange on the game, in case you're wondering, he said it was a tight game, a lot in the line for both clubs. I thought we were pretty much in control. They caught us in the counter and scored. We've had a chance of Kyogo, we missed. They have a big chance, they miss. It was a typical tight Champions League game, but we couldn't get the result we wanted. And yeah, we were definitely in control of the game. You look at the statistics. Yeah, we had more chances, we had more possession. It just felt overall we were just a little bit off the mark in terms of the same Celtic we're used to. But listen, the big picture is we have showed improvement in European football, and this is it done for Celtic Park this season. We've also got one more game, which is pretty irrelevant now against Real Madrid, but nonetheless, we still have one more game. But I think we can be positive. A lot of people are getting really, really, really annoyed at tonight's performance, and individuals such as Matt O'Reilly, and starting to raise big questions about him. I don't think we need to overreact so massively. You know, we are disappointed with our group stage standing. 2 points is not what we wanted to walk away with. And I think going into the group, we were all, pretty much all of us, were optimistic we'd get more than that. Especially against Shakhtar, when we had opportunities over both legs to get more. But there has been improvement. And it's the next natural step in the progression of Ange Postecoglou's side in Europe. It's a big wake-up call this season, and we need to use that. And the next season, if we go and do the exact same thing, that will be a failure. That will be. And we need to learn from that this time round. The next 2 transfer windows are massive for Celtic, to bring in the right players who are going to improve on the players we've already got, but also to ensure that we can put away these big chances in Europe, and to ensure we are confident amongst the team of our chances in European football and in these bigger stages. They are crucial, but we have shown improvement. I don't think that, despite how disappointing it may be that we're bottom of the group, we've put in a lot of performances, and there's been a lot of occasions throughout the game so far, the 5 games so far, where we have showed that we are a side who can come in and compete with sides in this competition. We've been unlucky with players like McGregor missing out. We've had injuries throughout the entire competition. Next year, we need to be, filled with the depth to compete against these sides, and when we've got that and we can convert these big chances, we'll go up the next rung of the ladder. I'm confident of that. I really am. Right, anyway, that'll do it for tonight's reaction, because I need to get it out quite quickly, and I've spoke for quite a while. We'll cover it more in depth tomorrow on the channel, and we'll probably end up having a podcast at some point this week where we'll talk about it even more. So we'll revisit it ahead of Real Madrid next week, which will be fun because they lost tonight, so now they need to play a good team next week. Lovely. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you enjoy. Have a good sleep, lads. See you next time.